If everyone wants to take a seat, we'll get started.
Well, I'm just going to text her and tell her.
Yeah, tell her she's
Hurt your feelings.
on my bad list. She'll know what that bad list is really called.
She was so funny because when I was.
Good morning, and thank you for attending the Air Medical Committee meeting. We'll get started first with our roll call. Jan, Bert,
Here.
Tracy,
Here.
Stacy is not here yet. Ricky,
Here.
Jim,
Here.
Deborah,
Here.
Alicia.
Here.
I wasn't able to attend the November meeting, so I would like to say welcome to Tracy, and I hope we don't wear you out, but we're certainly glad to have you. Thank you for offering to serve, and we look forward to having you on the committee and adding to the process. The next thing I'd like to do is just take a moment to remember the crew from the Eagle Med crash up in Oklahoma City. There were 2 fatalities in that crash. The paramedic was critically injured and is still, I believe, in critical condition. Funeral services, I believe, are tomorrow, and then there's a memorial service in Oklahoma City on Saturday morning. So if anybody wants the information on that memorial service, place and time, let me know, and I'll be happy to give that to you. But if you would please, let's just take a moment to remember those. God bless. Thank you. So the first item on our agenda is an update on the regulation of the out-of-state air medical providers that bring patients into Texas, especially by fixed wing, put their patients in the back of an ambulance for transport from airport to hospital. And some of the responsibilities are who's responsible for those providers, and I believe Bert has some information she wants to pass along to us.
We met after last GTAC and we formulated some questions. Maxie attended our work group meeting that we had, and he actually, I think that he's pretty much answered a lot of them, so when we send these in to get a written response so that we'll have a document that shows the response, I think we already know what to expect. But a couple of the big ones are, do you agree that the oversight of providers entering Texas is necessary, particularly in addressing quality issues from out-of-state providers when poor care is documented or noticed? And then out-of-state providers getting into the back of the Texas ground provider, an MOT should define the level and the skill. We submit that it's going to be nearly impossible to get MOTs with everybody that flies in, and so we're looking for some suggestions on how to assure that we do have that quality and that continuum of care. And then do you agree that if there are quality of care issues with the out-of-state providers, that notification of Texas Medical Service Director with the concern, and then we need to figure out how we're going to do loop closure on that. If we do have medical director or the physician sending and the physician receiving discussing any quality issues, there needs to be some way to document that and to show some follow-up and loop closure on the issue itself. And then we also looked at, do you agree in reference to Texas Health Code 77305 that a mutual aid agreement addresses this requirement? And we just need some definition of that. And then one that I think is pretty much answered, but we're still going to send it in, is reference to 157.11. You must have a patient care record for every patient transported. Do you agree that the documentation, care provided by, and then listing who the air medical service is, because typically it's going to be a higher level of care than a basic EMT or emergency care attendant. We just need some definition that this indeed will meet that statute. And then we're also looking at, do you agree that the out-of-state responders entering Texas to provide care has a number of defined entrants? And we already know the answer to this, but we're still going to send it in. Who is monitoring this, and what is that magic number? And I believe that we've already got our answer. We're not monitoring. It'd be almost impossible to figure out how many times each provider is coming into Texas, but we just need to have that documented. And then we also are asking, do you agree that a model such as a compact license for nurses would benefit Texas Department of State Health Services in licensing and oversight for compliance and competencies for the EMS providers? And so we'll send those in and see, and hopefully by next GTAC we'll have some kind of a response. Okay.
Thanks, Bert, appreciate that. So hopefully we'll have the answers to those questions for our next meeting, and then I think we can maybe put that item to rest. We've been talking about it for a while without any real answers, but I think the written answers will probably make everybody feel a little better. The next item on our agenda is an update on the draft document, the Ames document, the Model State Guidelines. I understand that Cmte has finished with their piece of that document. They sent it back to Ames, and Ames has published version 1 of the Model State Guidelines on their website. So they're there if you want to go look at them. And Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, please, that version 1 is open for comment. Do you know if that's correct? And I think it is. How long will that be open for comment? And I know there's an expectation that there will be a version 2 sometime in the future.
There will be. Ames published that as an official document earlier this year. So it says version 1, which kind of leads to the misnomer that it's not completed, but it is. It's just the first version that has come out. It's published. It's an official document and a standard from Ames and guidelines. Obviously, we knew when that came out that there would be comments that would come back. And we don't have a set time period as to when that will be. We'll take comments, into consideration for the next version that comes out. Cmte took that completed document. They're reviewing it. They may or may not have suggestions to that after they review it again. But it is published and is considered a final document for the first go-round of Model State Guidelines. So, when version 2, we've already gotten some comments back on this version that's out. So at some point when we feel like it's ready, we'll take those comments, look at it, and decide when we need to put out the second version. But it is an official document and completed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. You may remember that a good while back we had a copy of the draft of the Model State Guidelines. We had actually turned in a draft two dishes draft rules for air medical. Alicia worked long and hard doing a gap analysis of the Model State Guidelines and our draft rules that we sent in. I know that our draft has been sitting on a desk waiting on the Model State Guidelines to come out. That has happened, so I would really like at this time to see us be able to make a recommendation to GTAC that our draft of the rules be pushed on through the process. I think our draft is much more comprehensive. I think it covers things that the Model State Guidelines don't cover, and a number of those things there's certainly more detail. So that would just be my wish. So I will open that discussion to the committee.
My question would be, has DIS truly looked at our proposal versus the Model State Guidelines that have come out, and what is their general feeling of those? I know at one point I think ours were so comprehensive that they didn't think they could work with them. and I'd like to see what their feelings are on them, if it's a workable document or if they need to blend it with the model state guidelines and come up with a document that's more feasible for them.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any discussion from the audience?
Is there a possibility of having a focused group take the model state guidelines, take the guidelines that have already been proposed and pushed through this group and vetted, and have a joint meeting with dishes to really sit down, maybe for an 4-hour meeting in Austin or something like that, to work through those with them? Is there a possibility of doing that?
I don't see why not. We just need to get, and Maxie could probably answer that question for us better than anybody. I know he's out in the hallway. But we could certainly ask Maxie about that possibility, even though he's a short timer. And I will say right now, even though Maxie's not in here, and I was hoping he would be, he and I have butted heads often in the past, but it didn't keep us from being friends. Even I would just get so angry sometimes I'd have steam coming out of my ears, or felt like it, but didn't keep us from being friends. And I certainly wish Maxie the very best in his future job. So, but we can certainly try to see if that's a possibility. Alicia, that's a good idea.
So I don't think the main GTAC Council, or maybe even Not Dishes, have seen this document, the 28-page final draft. So maybe someone wants to entertain a motion to send both of them back again, the version 1 model state guidelines and our original, because GTAC's already vetted, our main one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do we need a motion for that? Or I think
I will make a motion.
okay.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that the Air Medical Committee sends forth a copy of the version 1 model state guidelines that were published to the main GTAC Council to go along with our prior approved 157.12 and 157.13 to DSHS for consideration.
Okay. So we have the motion in the second. Any discussion from the committee? Audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the update and discussion of the Air Medical Memo of Agreement for Mutual Aid in disaster responses. There were some concerns about part of that MOA, some questions about it, pieces and parts of it. So Jeff, who worked on the MOA for us, is going to give us an update on where we are with that MOA.
Sure. Just real quick, a lot of y'all met with me and very throughout of last year, and then around the holidays we met again. And a lot of the concerns I think y'all had with the MOU were around the general provisions, which are lengthy. There's a lot of them as part of our contracts. Rick and I agree that we would like to shorten those down, Rick Bays and I, and we're working to do that. When's that going to happen? That could be a little while. We are where we are with the MOU right now, the one that's posted. I appreciate, we're thankful for those of y'all who have signed that MOU. And we are working on those general provisions, and we'd like to get those shortened and abbreviated some, but at the moment, we're not there yet.
Jeff, I do have one question. I know there was one company that did sign that MOU as it was. So does that stand, or
Yes.
what happens with that? Okay.
No, it still stands. The contract still stands. It's still a valid open enrollment contract that's out there. People can still sign up for it. It's a valid contract. I think the meat of the contract is what we discussed here and we worked through. But around that is the general provisions that are just required on all of our contracts in the agency and throughout probably all the state government. And so we're working to try to see if we have contingency contracts like this one, can we shorten those general provisions at all, make them more simple, more streamlined, But at the moment, we're not there yet. It's still an ongoing discussion.
Okay, and as I discussed with you just a little bit ago, one of the very first questions that was sent to me on that was the fact that didn't appear to be an out clause. If you signed the MOU, then you were pretty much required to go if asked to respond.
Right, and I don't have the exact, the language in front of me. That is not in the intent of the contract. If in fact you sign the contract, and we have many other contracts for other resources that are written in very much the same way, and if we call you and you are otherwise occupied or don't have the resources available, you do not have to respond. That's not the intent of the contract at all. And so as we move forward, if we are able to revise the contract, we'll kind of plainly state that in there. But just so you know, that's not at all the intent. You can always say, we don't have the resources, we can't deploy, we can't go.
Will we see a draft of that before it's finalized?
We're happy to work with y'all, just like we did in the past, through the same process as we move forward. So once we get the general provisions piece tackled, if we can even accomplish that, I don't want to overcommit, but if we can accomplish that, then we can work to adjust some of the language inside the contract to address those questions.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Okay, thanks so much, Jeff. Thanks
You're
for
welcome.
working on it, and thanks for the update.
Oh, you're welcome.
The next item we have on the agenda is that we need to select a committee member to represent this committee, the Air Medical Committee, on the Trauma Registry Work Group. I think basically the purpose of the work group is to have more open communication. I know there's been lots of questions and issues with the trauma registry. So we need a volunteer to serve on that work group, and that would be to attend the work group meetings and then bring that information back to our committee. So if you're interested in doing that, if you want to let me know right now, that would be okay. But if you need a little bit to think about it, thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it. And we'll make sure that they get your name and that you get the notices for their meetings. Okay, so we are now open for general public comment. Maxie, I'm sorry you weren't in here just a minute earlier because I said something nice about you and I wanted you to hear it. I can't repeat it twice. It's tough.
It's on the video. You can go to the website and see it there.
It's always nice to be thoughtful.
No, we do appreciate everything you've done, and certainly I wish you well in your future job. We've butted heads many times, but we've remained friends, so I absolutely wish you nothing but the best in your future job. Some of you may or may not have received the information on the Emergency Medical Air Transport Act that is out, actually House Bill 1656. And basically what that bill states, it's an attempt to get some additional funding for the air medical services, and it would add a $5 add-on penalty to any moving traffic violation. And while it shouldn't be a huge burden on anybody that gets a traffic citation, it certainly could amount to some significant dollars for the air medical programs in the state. I was talking to Maxie just a little bit ago, and this bill was intended to, it would be I think, an add-on to some Medicaid funding. And the good thing for us, I guess, is that for the dollars that are distributed from this fund, there would be a matching amount of federal dollars to go with that. Maxie told me a while ago that there may be some issue with where that money is parked, waiting for distribution. Maxie, do you want to, and if the bill needs some amendments, then maybe that needs to happen.
No, it may be parked in the wrong part of the code. It may need to go on the HHSC as opposed to 773. I read it last night in my sleep, so I have to do an analysis on it, and that's what I was telling you. Because I have to do an analysis on it, we have to make a recommendation. So we will be looking at it and seeing how it's going to affect the department. If there's a fiscal note, because they always ask that. But we will be reviewing that, and once it's done, it'll be put out there for the public. But I just question if it needs to go in 773 or some other part of the chapter.
Okay, all right, thank you. So like I said, if there needs to be some amendment to this bill, but maybe that happens later on, and the state will take care of those. But I certainly would like to, if you don't have a copy of this, if you haven't seen a copy, I have a couple of extra copies. Our TAMES group, Texas Association of Air Medical Services, met yesterday, and we did, as a group, we voted to support this bill. So I would really like to see this committee do the same thing. Part of that support, we certainly would ask that some letters of support of that bill be written, some visits to the Hill if you have that opportunity, and anything that you could do to help support that bill. So, comments from the committee?
We had our day at the Capitol on Tuesday, and that was the big discussion, is because we have a similar add-on, the House Bill 3588, which passed a number of years ago, and it's parked in 1155. And we're having a problem with disbursement because the money is there, and I forget the exact amount, it's like $50-some million, and they're not putting the money where it's intended as it was in statute. So I think that we need to put a caveat, or when we're talking to folks, that this money needs to be mandated to be funded, because we've got a lot of money in the trauma fund for the trauma hospitals, but we're not getting.
Okay.
So I think that that's something that really needs to be addressed.
Okay. So maybe, Maxie, once you have a chance to read through that and come up with the recommendations for where that money actually needs to sit so that it can be used, if you could pass that along, then we could maybe use that when we write letters, go visit the Hill.
Well, we won't tell them we won't tell them anything about the money. All we will suggest is that language is not housed in 773.
Okay.
But we won't say anything about the money, how it works, or anything like that. We'll just say we think it might be better served under HHSC as opposed to DSHS. I think that's probably one of the recommendations we might make. But I haven't had a chance to really digest this bill yet to see exactly what they're calling for the department to do.
Okay, alrighty. So it would be reasonable for us if we go write letters or talk to the folks on the Hill, would it be reasonable yet to mention that maybe that money would be better?
It's not so much the money, it's just the language in the bill itself. It's not the money. It really doesn't have anything to do where the money is going to sit. It's just the language in the bill.
Okay.
Does it need to go in 773 or does it need to go somewhere else? The logistics of all that it's all state, so they'll find the logistics and work that out.
Okay.
It's just that I think the language probably should be best served on the HHSC, on Medicaid rules, as opposed to DSHS.
Okay. Any other comments from the audience?
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee and members of the audience. Tim Pickering from AeroVac, and we're one of the participating group of consortiums that now working with TAMES is supporting and working with the author of House Bill 1656, Representative Island. There is no companion Senate bill yet, but we believe that the fact that Medicaid has not reached the cost level of the provision of air medical services in the state of Texas, that there are means for alternative funding that will help us not only offset costs against Medicaid, but the fact that we have a growing indigent and uncompensated care group. And that will help offset some of those costs because somebody will bear some of the costs. It's a minimal penalty, and it's really geared towards folks whose activities increase the flow of trauma into the system. State Highway Patrol agents will tell you that 95% of injuries that they see on highways come from moving violations. And so those folks then exercise the trauma system, and of course the critically injured folks tend to end up in the back of air medical assets, and particularly in rural Texas or down in the valley, or isolated areas where there are very high uncompensated care or Medicaid patient levels. Obviously, Maxie, we're going to depend on folks who, as part of the process, have to opine on language and provide fiscal notes and stuff. And a bill is an ever-evolving instrument as it moves through the legislative process. But we really appreciate the fact that this committee is considering support, that this is a dynamic issue that we need to address, because we believe that federal payers at the Medicare level are not meeting costs, and state payers, while we have made strides over the last decade, are not meeting costs. And so the provision of this kind of care in two of the most highly regulated industries, aviation and healthcare, is very expensive and is being borne primarily by the private enterprise. And so, any support and activity as we go towards hearings, it's not been referred to committee yet. So really, this is a fresh green bill that was dropped, as the word says, last Thursday. And, filing deadline's March 8th, so, things need to move forward. And we certainly, and TAMES will be fully informed and in the loop of what goes. So I'm happy to answer any questions as one of the persons that's part of the consortium supporting this effort.
So if we chose to write a letter of support, who should we direct those letters to? Our legislators from our districts?
I think absolutely direct your letters of support to your representatives from your district. Very easy to go to the Texas legislative website and identify those folks. There's actually another site where you can plug in your zip code, and it will clearly identify them. And I would urge you also to copy the author's office, Representative Island, E-I-L-A-N-D, so that his staff sees the letters that you're writing. That's very helpful. And I urge you to contact your senators, even though there is no Senate companion yet. They need to hear in your own words, what your concerns are about supporting your services, and that you support this bill language. By doing that, you're not locking yourself into a version of the bill language. You're expressing support for the concept and idea, and asking those folks who you elected to go to the State House to support a concept. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. So my question to the council then would be, are we interested in our support of this bill? Do we want to vote on that and take that on to the GTAC council meeting? Or Maxie says no. Can't vote. Oh, okay, all right. So we can't vote, but we can report to the council that we wish to support it, if that's agreeable.
Yes.
Consensus.
Yes.
Okay. I have one other thing, and it has to do with the executive committee, the GTAC executive committee meeting, and some things that I want to present to you. Does anybody have anything else before we get into that? Okay. I want you to remember that this is just discussions we've had. There has been nothing decided, but we have heard, as council members, and all of us, I guess, that there's a wish to try to shorten the weeks that we meet. For some folks, they're here the entire week. Our meetings with our committees and then the council take up a full 2.5 days. And so we've been looking at ways to try to shorten the meeting time to make it easier for folks to attend and be here for the entire time. But we are trying to find some reasonable solutions. One of the questions we have in trying to change up the meeting schedules, and one of the issues I know that some of the programs have is that they may only send one person from their committee to attend all of the meetings. Because what we've been looking at is to start the meeting process off with a kickoff meeting, which would be a kickoff council meeting that everybody would be invited to. The purpose of that would be just to get the state reports that we end up doing every meeting now. So that will take some time off of the individual committee meetings, but get a kickoff meeting, get the state reports, and then other reports which would be identified at whenever that was appropriate. The kickoff meeting would not be a meeting to discuss the agendas of each individual committee, but to identify the critical issues of each committee meeting, the critical issues that are going to be discussed during each committee meeting. That hopefully would give everybody an idea of which meetings they would want to attend, which would be most informative or most critical for them to attend. We have looked at several different variations on how we could arrange those committee meetings. Some committees may need an hour and a half every time they meet. There may be other committees that feel like they could take care of all of their business in an hour. And that wouldn't be an absolute. Even, if your committee decided they could take care of their business in an hour most of the time. If you had an issue come up and you had several issues come up, you have a meeting that you feel like you need an hour and a half, then, the times could be rearranged. So maybe shortening some of those committee meetings would give us some extra time. And we've discussed the possibility of a little bit of an overlap with some of the meetings. That might be necessary to try to get it all done in a 2-day period of time. We discussed the possibility of starting on an afternoon, doing an afternoon kickoff meeting, a couple of committee meetings, and then have our meetings all day the next day. Try to do the council meeting maybe even that evening or the next morning, so that we could truly shorten the time that people are required to be here. Another question we had, if we manage to get something that's workable into a 2-day process, the GTAC meetings have always been Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Would we do Thursday, Friday if we were going to look at a 2-day process, or would Wednesday, Thursday be a better choice for people trying to stay away from the weekend travel on Fridays? I know it's very difficult already when the legislature is in session to try to get a flight out of Austin on Friday afternoon. And if it's not booked a long ways ahead, it's probably not going to happen unless you get the very, very late flight. So looking at which 2 days would be the best 2 days to do that. So we'll hear some discussion at the GTAC council meeting about that. Like I said, nothing has been decided, nothing has been set. We're just kicking around ideas. So if you have some ideas on what you think might work really well, please pass them on to me or one of the other council members. We'll be happy to take those to the discussions that we're having and try to come up with something, a solution that's workable for most everybody. I'm not sure we could ever please everybody, but certainly we want to make it where it's the most workable for the large majority of the folks that attend. That pretty much covers our agenda items. Any other general public comment at this time?
Shirley. At this time, I'd like to ask Brock to come up and discuss the golf tournament that we sponsored and the silent auction that we had at the conference. I think it's kind of important that everybody know exactly where we stand on that. The funds that were raised at that go to the Hall of Honor for fallen EMS line of duty deaths in the state, and I think a great job was done with this year's tournament, and we're seeing funds grow for this. Hopefully we won't need them and we'll be able to reallocate them to something else. There's been discussion about potentially doing some scholarships for people if needed, but if you would let Brock give us a quick report, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Brock?
Good morning, Brock Miller, Medical. Excuse my allergies. So this year our financials on incoming sponsorships, $8,250. We had 69 golfers, and that brought in $6,900. Mulligans around $151. Dixon Golf $58. Silent auction was $2,231. Other $350. Total incoming was $17,940 raised this year, compared to our 2011 tournament, which was our first, of $11,080. Outgoing, we had $6,689.75. Another $582.75 for signs. That $6,000 was for Onion Creek. And then said marketing, goodie bags, total outgoing was $7,692.65 compared to $7,418 in 2011. Our net for 2012 golf tournament was $10,247.35 compared to $4,403.89 in 2011. Difference of $5,843.46. So I appreciate everybody's help and support with this.
Brock, I know you did a large amount of that work yourself, and I think certainly you are to be congratulated.
Appreciate it.
So our golf tournament for the next conference hopefully will be bigger and better. Brock's already working on that. Hopefully I can be one more player for the next golf tournament, since I've got still till November to get everything loosened up and working right. But certainly if you're a golfer, or maybe if you're not and you just want to go have some fun, we would certainly ask that you attend and support the golf tournament. That money, the funds from that is used to help with travel for those folks that are being inducted into the Hall of Honor that we do at the state conference every year.
And just for your information, the funds are parked in a special account within the Texas Association of Air Medical Services and then requested each year by DISH, I guess. Kelly will request them depending on the individuals that were coming in. I know this year, I think there was 2 families. One of them was paid for, their visitation was paid for by their local RAC. We did pay out, and I'm not sure the exact sum, but a portion was paid out to one family member, and all they paid for was his mileage to drive in for the event. Otherwise, what I think we're covering is their hotel room for 2 nights, meals, and mileage in those events.
So Shirley, will the golf tournament, I assume, be in Fort Worth this year, since that's where the conference is?
It will be in Fort Worth. I know Brock is working on. Brock, do you want to share any information or whatever you have for the tournament for next year or this year?
We're looking at Texas Star in Euless. I've met with a guy over the phone 2 days ago, and I'm waiting on a contract. We may look at signing a 2-year deal with them to reduce the cost. If we don't go with them, we'll go with a private club. Usually can get better rates with a private club.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Brock will share that information with all of us as soon as he has that information, so we can make plans to go play.
Shirley?
Yes.
I just had one, I guess, point of thought, when we're reanalyzing about meetings, and I value everyone's time and everybody who shows up, and it's a process, I'd love to see us be able to accommodate everybody and fit into a 2-day schedule. That would be marvelous. It's so important that we have the opportunity to go to the other meetings. I mean, I'm just sitting here looking at my EMS committee. I mean, I wasn't even able to go to anything else yesterday, but I managed to make it to the EMS committee. And, the different things they're covering there that even aren't on our agenda, but that affect us. It's so important to have the availability to go over there. They're talking about, medical director training that affects us. They're talking about the different House bills and Senate bills out there. I have a whole list I want to go look up now. And we run into those things because, it's healthcare. We all overlap in our services, and I just want to restate the importance that we have the opportunity to go to all the meetings. And, if we can submit, every time we put in an agenda, we need 90 minutes this time, or we need 30 minutes this time, and they can work it that way, that would be wonderful. Because there are times we only need 30 minutes or maybe an hour, and there may be times that we want 2 hours. So, that would be nice as well. Now, when we weren't stuck to a time where,
Absolutely. And the executive committee certainly is very sensitive to those issues for everybody. We know that there are a large number of companies that send one person, and they do need to attend every meeting. So to try to figure out a way that we can make that happen certainly is what we want to do. And maybe there ends up being no change at all because we can't change it and accommodate everybody. That may be what comes down in the final analysis. I don't know, because we're just trying to look at all options and see if there is a way we can shorten the time frame and make it work for everybody. Anybody else? Committee? Audience? Okay, I don't have anything else, so for our summary then we will take to the GTAC Council the wish to get together with DISH's a group from our council or our medical providers get together with DISH's maybe for a 4-hour meeting or so to look over the model state guidelines that are now published on the Ames website and our draft air medical rules, and see if we can't get some movement there. Since that's been a while. And the support of House Bill 1656, and hopefully we can get that, get some support from the council on that also. The next meeting dates are May 15th through the 17th. We'll be back here at this hotel. So if you have anything that you need placed on the agenda, please remember that our agendas have to be turned in. It's about 45 days before our meeting dates. They have to have time to go through the legal process. They have to be published at least 30 days before the meeting. So it takes, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks for those agendas to go through the legal and be approved. So if you have things that you'd like to see published on the agenda, please send them to me in ample time to get them on the agenda. I don't have anything else, so I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.